This video contains adult content, including photos, audio recordings, and court documents. They say it takes an average of 7 times for a victim to leave an abusive relationship. But what happens with law enforcement during those 7 or more times? Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Goodall, and today you're going to hear a recording between myself and Florida Public Defender David Moran shortly after a third warrant was issued for my arrest in Pinellas County. The legal documents contained in this video are available online at Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. So what does happen with law enforcement during that cycle of abuse? Many officers seem to have this personal policy of a one and done. You call us, we arrest, here's your order of protection, don't ever call us again. After that, you become untrustworthy. You've lost all credibility once you go back. And the officers seem to begin sympathizing with the abuser. She's crazy. She's the one, until she produces evidence, photos, audio recordings, and documentation. But it doesn't matter, because after the first time, you become a wolf calling crybaby. And I get it. The cops are people too. They're thinking the same thing as everybody else. Why did you go back? This is ridiculous. You must like it. If you go back, we're never helping you again. And that's fine for other people to judge when victims go back. But when you are an officer of the law and you wear a uniform and you wear that badge, your personal bias no longer applies. You have the uniform, you have your professional obligations to do your job with compassion and integrity. Because when officers don't remove that personal bias, victims are re-victimized. Victims are traumatized and re-traumatized. Victims are violated and re-violated. So on the night of October 15th, 2021, a bystander witnessed my boyfriend punch me in the head, grab me by the arm, drag me away, and scream, "I'm going to effing kill you, and it's going to be all your fault." This wasn't the first time that Chris threatened to kill me. This wasn't the first time that he hit me, grabbed me, choked me, punched me, kicked me. But by then, I was so far in, I didn't know how to get out. So when officers arrived, I was traumatized. As soon as Officer Amanda Biglin said, "You shouldn't have been here with him in the first place," repeatedly, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew it. And yes, I shouldn't have been there. And that may be true. Christopher had complete control over my life. After the 2016 death of my son to suicide, my life was unbearable. I suffered multiple hospitalizations, severe depression, and I was addicted to prescription medication at the hands of my husband that was a doctor. When I met Chris in 2019, I was still very, very vulnerable, and I was still very, very weak. And the abuse didn't really start until after March of 2020, when my children and I moved in. And then COVID hit, and that was it. So on the night of October 15th, 2021, Chris had so much control over me. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my wallet. I didn't have ID. I didn't even have shoes because I had been walking barefoot. I had a pair of cowboy boots in my hands. He grabbed the boots and threw them in front of the witness and said, "You're next," grabbed my arm and continued yelling profanities. So when officers arrived, I had no phone, no ID, no wallet, no money, no way to get home, nothing. I literally had a shirt, a pair of shorts, and a thong. That's it. You can imagine how frightened I was. So when Officer Biglin kept getting in my face and waving her hands in my face, I became more frightened. By the end of the night, I was hospitalized, beaten, stripped naked, and thrown in a jail cell. So listen to the conversation. Read the depositions. Where is the missing witness? I have filed complaints. I didn't get my day in court. They took that from me. So you be the jury and you be the judge. Please be respectful. This was very difficult for me to come forward.
Emailing the judge.
What's that?
Stop emailing the judge.
Who is this?
This is your attorney, David Moran, giving you legal advice. Stop emailing the judge.
But isn't the judge issued a warrant in error? You're aware of that, correct?
I don't care what it is. I'm going to fix it, but you don't email him, okay? I'm done.
That was my attorney from Florida that just called me and hung up on me. But
Hi, Heather. It's Attorney David Moran. I was just going to see if you wanted to try to appear by Zoom. I could ask the judge for a link for the 1:30 court. Give me a call back, 727-464-6595, or just email me. Thank you. Bye.
Hello?
Hi, David.
Yes.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm doing a lot of other work too. So, all right. So I sent you an email, and I guess I must be confused.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Okay.
The judge obviously denied the continuance. Okay.
Why is that? I mean, I sent you the medical documentation of why I couldn't travel, and you did not alert me to the fact that I had to be by the phone. I was under the impression that I provided the medical documentation, and you were going to let me know, what the next court date was.
Well, either way, the judge denied the continuance.
Okay, but is there any reason why, if there was medical documentation?
Yes, he felt that there was nothing new in the documentation as to reasons why you could not travel.
Well, with the fact that I had COVID twice, I have a heart condition, I have Ehlers-Danlos, a daughter that's 29 that just went through cancer treatment, and a 15-year-old daughter with diabetes. Those aren't new. I mean, even if they're new, I mean, I've had COVID twice since I was in Pinellas County. Matter of fact, I was in there in October, at which time there was a high rate of COVID, and I did end up getting COVID and was very sick for 6 weeks. The second time I had COVID was in April, and then I had to have a transfusion. So obviously, having COVID twice with a heart condition, the documentation came from a medical professional. And what was your response to that?
I argued that obviously that what I had the documents, I had contact with you, that you had your medical issues, that you could not travel. So he still denied it, and he issued a KP.
So he issued 2 warrants in error in the past. Is that true?
That was based on information from ROR.
But it was an error, right?
Correct.
Okay, so he issued 2 warrants in error, which was serious. One of them was without bail. So he issued 2 warrants in error and has now issued a 3rd one and dismissed my medical documentation that placed me at a high risk of travel, despite the fact that I did get COVID and I have a heart condition, and I had a daughter who went through cancer treatment, and also a daughter who's 15 that's a diabetic. So clearly there was not just my medical documentation, but my children. So what was your argument to that?
At this time, I no longer represent you.
So then who represents me? Because I can't have, so it almost sounds like David.
You need to avail yourself to the jurisdiction if you want a new lawyer, or as I stated, you are more than welcome to obtain a Florida lawyer to come and move to withdraw your warrants and represent you on this charge.
Okay, I'm confused how you can deny me legal representation if I qualify for a public defender and then just leave me without an attorney when there's a warrant for my arrest. It almost sounds like a setup. I have to tell you, because I sent you a list of questions and I do need to ask. So even you had scheduled a trial without any evidence. Is there still a missing witness? So wouldn't there be an adjournment because you're still looking for a missing witness? The only witness to this alleged assault is missing. What, is that true?
That's according to you.
No, I'm asking you. You're the attorney. Is the witness?
According to you, he's the only witness.
No, is there other witnesses?
Yeah, the officers that were there.
Okay, so I'm talking about witnesses that saw the interaction between myself, the police, and even the assault that occurred with Christopher Ryan, because the call came in because I was a victim of domestic violence and I was assaulted. So there were witnesses clearly that saw him hit me and threaten me, at which time the officers arrived. And my response was consistent with that of a victim of domestic violence in a very fearful situation. So where is the witness that called 911 and was standing there when the police arrived?
He is obviously off the grid.
He's obviously off the grid?
Unfortunately, yeah, we can't find him.
Okay, that's so you can go to trial?
That doesn't mean your case gets to sit in perpetuity until he shows up.
Well, I think that having a missing witness is a little suspect. And did you request the video surveillance from the location that the incident occurred, the transport van, the jail, the hospital, any body cams, any witnesses on the street? Did you request any of the video surveillance from any location?
You know, we already requested the video from the hospital.
Okay, so what happened? When did you request that?
As soon as you told me about it.
Why? As soon as I told you about it, you knew that I was transported to the hospital. So what date did you request the hospital surveillance? So you were able to find it?
Yes. So after you and I had a meeting in April.
Wait, when did you originally get the case?
Okay. Let me tell you this. I'll go backwards.
Okay.
Okay? Because when my investigator contacted them, so your incident occurred on you were there October 15th, October 16th of 2021, right?
Okay.
And they only hold the video footage for 30 days.
I'm sorry, can you please answer the question when you first got the case?
Yes. We got it February 8th.
So what is the delay? You know, I was under the impression when I went in front of the judge.
You keep there for 30 days.
Wait,
for those 30 days, you didn't have a lawyer. It vanished.
Wait,
okay,
so
you get appointed.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
My question is, if I went in front of a judge on October 16th, and at that time, the judge told me I would be appointed a public defender, and this is critical information, why is there a delay in appointing an attorney if there is time-sensitive information with regard to my case?
You got ROR, and nobody was appointed to your case.
But why? I was told when I went in front...
I wasn't there. That judge didn't appoint a lawyer for you.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm asking these questions so I understand. I've never been arrested, by the way. Just as a reminder, okay. This is something foreign for me. So
here's what happens, Heather. Here's what happens.
Okay.
Okay? Now, more than likely, because I know Judge Syracusa, who's the judge that handles your advisory hearing, okay, he probably saw this, and he saw that, he saw your New York address, okay? Now, even though he saw your New York address, he decided to obviously put you on supervised ROR, okay? Because obviously it probably came out in your advisory hearing that you were just, I'm sure you told him you were guys just visiting, right?
That is correct.
Do you recall what all you told him during the hearing?
I'm a New York resident.
Yeah, right. So he probably thought, this might not even be filed, okay? So I'm going to release her on supervised ROR. The sheriff will keep track of her if for some reason they file it and she goes off and never shows back up.
Which I haven't.
I'm not going to FOIA.
16th.
Well,
So what happened?
I don't know, okay?
But is that negligent on the part of the judicial system? If I'm told on October 16th and there's time-sensitive information with regard to my case that the judge made a decision that they could potentially not pursue the case and not appoint a public defender to obtain relevant information to the case?
Well, let me ask you this, Heather. If you thought you had a public defender appointed to you,
I had a public defender appointed to me?
if you thought, if that's what you thought,
Of course I thought that.
okay. Well, between October 16th or 17th, whenever you, I would say the 16th, I guess, is when you got released, and we got appointed February 7th in court. We were in contact shortly thereafter. You ever once reached out to our office, though, as if like, hey, I was in court on October 16th, the judge said I had a lawyer.
I'm from New York. I'm not familiar with Pinellas County or the Florida judicial system. Had it been in New York, then I would have had a little bit more information to work with. I also, as I mentioned, was very sick for almost 2 months of that time, which I can also prove. So if the judge says I'm appointing an attorney on October 16th, I have faith in that judge to do and follow through with what he said. So my faith in the judge is completely dismissed by the fact that you're trying to put the accountability on me. It wasn't my responsibility to appoint the attorney, and now you're trying to put that responsibility on me, and it's not going to happen. The judge said that he appointed an attorney. There was time-sensitive information, and this just goes into my claim that the case should just be dismissed. There's been 2 warrants issued in error. My medical information was dismissed as if the medical professionals in the state of New York don't have the authority to diagnose a patient and present medical documentation of their illness, which clearly to anybody would make it unsafe to travel. And now you're telling me the judge neglected to appoint an attorney in a timely manner. So now we're 3 for 3. So let's move on from here. There's negligence on the part of the judge. And which judge was that again?
Pat Syracusa.
Okay, how do you spell that?
Siracusa.
Okay, great. This judge initially neglected to appoint a public defender, even though he told me he was doing it. So, and now the second judge issued 2 warrants in error, and now a third one dismissing medical documentation. So, and we also have a missing witness. So what evidence has been gathered? And also, I want to remind you that we were at the hospital, at which time the officer was laughing and ridiculing me. In the hospital, the officer that I allegedly assaulted, at which time I asked her to document her alleged injuries. And she continued to laugh and smile, which is why that video evidence would have been extremely helpful. So now you're telling me that we're going to trial with a missing witness, judicial negligence, no evidence. So what is there? And what was your defense? Why didn't you enter a defense based on the fact that I was in an extremely abusive cycle of domestic violence? And I've sent you several reports. I was crying in fear. And the other thing is, what happened following my arrest is absolutely relevant. These officers not only abused me, but they put me in a jail cell naked, which was against my human rights. So violated my rights, and they discriminated against me because I was a resident of New York. And the officer even said that.
That's separate and apart from representing you on this matter.
But it folds into the action. It does, because the officers were discriminating against me because I was with my boyfriend, even though there was an order of protection. I was visiting from New York, and I was a New York girl with an attitude. No, that's exactly what she said, and that's why this happened. These are all relevant. So I want to know, what was your defense at trial?
Okay. Well, I've given you enough of my time, but I don't represent you anymore.
But I still need So this was a setup because I wouldn't take the plea. You wanted me to take the plea. Is that true?
I was willing to do whatever you want to do, but you didn't avail yourself to our jurisdiction. And you obviously did not want to answer the phone that morning.
It's not that I didn't want to answer the phone. I trusted when you told me that you were going...
If you see me calling you, you would think, why is my lawyer calling me?
I didn't know. I didn't have my phone on me because you didn't advise me that I would have to be by my phone, an appearance that you were supposed to get an adjournment, and I did everything I was supposed to do. And you and the judge just issued a warrant because I wouldn't take the plea. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, exactly. I just sat there and said, I issued the warrant. I did that on purpose. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that you have the authority to issue a warrant. So now you've left me without representation because I wouldn't take a plea and because I provided you with medical documentation?
No, I've been trying to explain to you how this works, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you live down the street, if you fail to show up in court and the judge issues a case...
But I don't live down the street. I live in New York.
Comes off of the case. Your case is in limbo right now because you've got a zero bond warrant out there for you. Now, it's non-extraditable. Like, they've decided so far to not extradite you so far, but one day they could, okay? So you've got a zero bond warrant out for you.
Okay, So what does that mean with the zero bond non-extradition? What does that mean?
It means they decided not to bring you down from New York, even though you got arrested for the failure to appear.
But it wasn't a failure to appear. I didn't just not show up. I communicated with you about this. I provided you with mine and my children's medical documentation, so I don't live down the street. Difficult for a person with a medical condition to travel, especially since they had COVID twice since they were in Florida. You put me in a jail cell, which was dirty, naked. And I told them I have a heart condition. You can call my doctor. They refused to give me my medication, and they put me in a cell where I think a month before that, a prisoner or an inmate had died of COVID a month before that. And you think it's safe for me to travel? And the judge is safe for me to travel? This is absolutely... So what was the defense that you were going to present at trial? That's what I need to know.
Well, you were going to testify that you never touched her or kicked her.
Wait, so that was your defense to put me on the stand? Because it's her word against mine, and that's what it boils down to. So you're telling me that you were going to go to trial with an officer against me and not present any relevant information? You were going to go to trial with a missing witness, no video surveillance? That's it? No, there's no evidence. There's nothing.
Okay. All right.
Do you think that is appropriate?
Well, like I said, you're free to now hire anybody you'd like to.
Okay, but if I have a public defender, then obviously I can't afford to hire an attorney. Wouldn't you agree? So you and the judge, I refused. Here's what happened. I refused to take the plea because I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
It was good talking with you, Heather. I'm going to go.
Okay, I will be reporting you for misconduct.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to share your comments below. And if you've ever been a victim of domestic violence and experienced a similar response from authorities or police bias or discrimination or retaliation for going back, please share your story and let's raise awareness and stop the stigma.